Alright, so before we get into the video, I just want to show you guys something real quick. 96% of you guys are not subscribed, and that is
No bueno.
if you do see this video and you keep seeing me in your recommendations, like the featured or whatever, make sure you hit that subscribe button because it only takes 2 seconds and it does help motivate me to make more videos for you guys because I truly do like making videos. But let's get into the video. NFL draft is just a few days away and I'm personally really excited for it. Of course, we all know that there is some draft prospects that, go 5th, 6th round picks and they end up being complete steals. And then there's like some first rounders, second rounders are a complete bust. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the draft bust from 2016 till about 2022-ish. Now, I will say before I get into the video, we're only going to be doing about the first rounders and the second rounders from the 2016 draft all the way up until the 2022 draft. So don't get triggered if it's not like a third rounder pick or whatever like that. So first and second rounders only. And I will admit there is some teams that was like an absolute like draft bust, and there was teams where it's like I had a hard time really considering a bust. So I'll explain later in the video. Starting off the video, we're gonna be talking about the Arizona Cardinals with the first round pick. Number 10 was Josh Rosen, and he was a complete bust, let me tell you that. And remember that the Cardinals actually, traded up in the draft in order to get this dude. He was like they were like number 16th pick or 15th pick, and he actually went to the 10th overall pick just to draft him and basically did nothing while he's over there. In his first year with the Cardinals, he had 11 touchdowns, 14 interceptions with a grade of a 49, and that is a really bad start, for a rookie, even though he's a rookie still, but being a 10th overall pick NFL draft, this was just complete cheeks. And then you see the next year, he had 1 touchdown and 5 interceptions, and basically ever since then, he didn't even play an NFL snap. He played with the Arizona Cardinals. He was traded to the Miami Dolphins about 2020. He also played with the Buccaneers, San Francisco 49ers, Falcons, Browns, and he was on the Vikings practice squad a couple years ago, and he is still currently a free agent. So yeah, that is definitely a bust. In the second round, 47th pick of the 2020 draft, the Atlanta Falcons drafted Marlon Davidson. He was a defensive end from Auburn, and he had a really high potential, really high ceiling. And then he basically only had like a couple of sacks on the season, or actually in the last 2 years with the Atlanta Falcons. You can see the stats on the screen. He had a 58 grade in his first year. His second grade was just a little bit better a little bit worse with a 55, and he was just not living up to expectations at all. I know that injury did not help this man at all. He missed several games, and he ended up being released, and then he is currently on the Titans. He's only 25 years old and still has a chance to really break through, but that's considered the Falcons draft bust within the last 4 to 5 years, something like that. With the Baltimore Ravens in the 2016 draft, Kamalia, I don't know how to pronounce these names, I'm sorry, Correa from the 2016 draft was technically their biggest bust since then. He was drafted in the second round, 42nd pick in the draft from Boise State, and he is a defensive end. In his first 2 years in Baltimore, this dude had no sacks, and you see the stats, 62.9 grade with a 44 grade in 2017. He actually ended up being traded to Tennessee Titans, and he actually did relatively better in the Titans uniform. And then he ended up getting traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars like in 2020, 2021 or something like that, and he actually ended up leaving the Jaguars for personal reasons, so he basically retired. But he's been out of NFL since 2021, so this is technically the Ravens' biggest draft bust since 2016. Also from the 2016 draft, I almost said 2022. The 2016 draft, the Buffalo Bills selected Reggie Ragland from Alabama in the second round. This guy had a lot of potential, just like a couple other players, in this draft. He didn't even play a single snap for the Buffalo Bills due to injuries. And he ended up being traded to Kansas City Chiefs in 2018 and ended up balling out, as you can see the stats on the screen. 77.6 grade. He had a little bit lower snaps than normal, but it's still really good. Then he had a little down year 2018, and then 2019 was pretty good as well. He played with the Kansas City Chiefs, Lions, Giants, Raiders, and Browns, and he has not played in the NFL since 2022. So that is the Bills' biggest draft bust since 2016. The Carolina Panthers' biggest draft bust is Greg Little from the second round pick in 2019. Just like a few other players, he was on and off the IR. He could not stay healthy to save his life. And his first year was in 2019, and he did not play good whenever he was healthy. He gave up a lot of sacks, he gave up a lot of hurries and pressures, and you see his grades on the screen. It is not good, and he got just worse and worse. And then he was traded to the Miami Dolphins in 2021. He missed most of the year in 2021, and when he played in 2022, he was just even worse. And so he has not played in NFL since 2022. Is currently a free agent. The Chicago Bears' biggest draft bust since 2016 comes from the 2017 draft in the second round. Adam Shaheen, the tight end. He played in Chicago for about 3 years, and his first year wasn't too bad. He had a 72 grade. He wasn't really targeted a lot, not really play a lot, but then the last couple of years in Chicago in 18 and 19, he had a 56.7 in 18, and then a 61.2 in 19, and then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth. And granted, just like the other players, he also got hurt in 2018, which basically dwindled his whole career. He was traded to the Miami Dolphins, in which he had a relatively good year in his first year in Miami, and then basically he got injured again and has not played in the NFL since 2021. With the 21st pick of the 2018 draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Billy Price from Ohio. Now, this is one of the dudes that did not get hurt during his career. He was actually pretty relatively healthy, but in 2018, his first year, of course, was probably his best year in the NFL with a 55.6 grade, and ever since then, he is probably one of the worst pass blockers in the NFL. He was traded to the New York Giants in 2021. He's played with the Cardinals, Saints, and the Dallas Cowboys, and he is currently a free agent. The biggest draft bust from Cleveland since 2016 is Austin Corbett. He was a second-round pick, 33rd overall, which is basically a late first-rounder. I don't care what you say, but he was their biggest draft bust. He ended up being on and off the field with a lot of injuries in the first couple of years. You know, he had a relatively okay first couple of years, 54.9, just below average. And then he was actually traded to the Los Angeles Rams, and he actually played really well. Oh, and I will say, with these certain players, like I said, there's some players that were complete busts or not in the NFL and did nothing in the NFL, but then there's some players where teams just drafted them. They couldn't do anything with their team, and now they're balling out with the rest of the NFL. So I will say that now. And by the way, Austin is still currently with the Panthers, and yeah, his last year with the Panthers was probably his worst year in the NFL. But he still had a couple of good years with the Rams and all that. We have another second rounder here. Tristan Hill from UCF in the 58th pick from the Cowboys is their biggest bust. And now in his first year with the Cowboys, he was actually just above average, or just below average, 57.1. And then he got hurt in 2020, and then ever since then, he kind of fell off. He had 2 sacks in 2 years with the Dallas Cowboys, in 3 years with the Dallas Cowboys, and is currently on the New England Patriots. I'm not going to lie here, with the Broncos pick, I completely forgot about this player. With the first round pick, number 26 in the draft, the Broncos select Paxton Lynch. Just like Josh Rosen, he was also the Broncos traded up to get him in the draft, and basically his first 2 years were complete dookie. Now, granted, he didn't play like a full season with the Broncos, but whenever he did play, was just not good. He had 4 career touchdowns and 4 career interceptions for being a first overall pick. That makes Josh Rosen look a lot better. He hasn't played an NFL snap since 2017. He has been on the Broncos, Seahawks, and the Steelers practice squad. Yeah, like I said, I just completely forgot about Paxton Lynch, so that just threw me for a loop. With the 3rd overall pick in the 2020 draft, the Detroit Lions select Jeff Okudah from Ohio. Now, I will admit, this dude did not live up to expectation at all. In his first year, he had a grade of a 42, and he was relatively healthy for most of that season until 2021. Then he was out for several games, and basically ever since then, he could not find his rhythm at all. He was traded to the Atlanta Falcons in 2023 for like a 3rd round pick or something like that, and he is currently on the Houston Texans. And for being a 1st round pick, number 3 overall, he only has 2 career interceptions, so that is not good. The Green Bay Packers' biggest draft bust since 2016 is cornerback Josh Jackson from Iowa. He was drafted in the 2nd round, and the Packers are usually really good with their 2nd round picks, but this one was a complete Caca one. His first year, he basically started the whole year. He had a grade of a 57.4, but then basically ever since 2019, he was not a consistent starter and just kind of fell off just like the other players did. He was traded to the New York Giants in 2021 for like a 4th round pick or something like that. And ever since then, he's played on the Cardinals, Steelers, and Cardinals again. And he last played NFL in 2022. So this guy just did not do anything. I think he had like 0 career interceptions or something like that. The Houston Texans' biggest draft bust since 2016 is Ross Blacklock from TCU. He was also a 2nd round pick. He had 2 sacks in 2 years with about 30 games with the Houston Texans. He just wasn't good. And he actually was not devastated by injuries either. He was actually a pretty relatively healthy person. And he was also traded to the Miami Dolphins in about 2022. He's played with the Texans, Miami Dolphins, Jacksonville Jaguars, Colts, and Tennessee. And he is still currently on the Titans. So, yeah, that's not good if you're on your division rival. Colts fans, I know you don't miss this player. TJ Green was your biggest draft bust. He was also a 2nd round pick. And in his first year with the Colts, he basically played like most of the season. He had a grade of a 29.8 as a 2nd round pick. That is not good at all. His first 2 years were just really his first 2 years were just bad, period. And then he got hurt in about 2019. And ever since then, he was on, the Colts, Seahawks, Saints, Panthers, and Falcons. He has not played since 2021. With the 9th overall pick in the 2020 draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select CJ Henderson from Florida. And let me tell you, in his first year with the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's actually not too bad, 57.9, but that's not technically that bad for a for a first year player. But basically, ever since 2021, he got injured and kind of just fell off the face of the earth again. The Jaguars ended up trading him to the Carolina Panthers. He played there for about a year or two, and he is currently on the Houston Texans. And just like some of these other players, like Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson, these players are still really young and still have a chance to really live up to expectations, just like they were in the first round. In the 2018 draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Breeland Speaks in the 2nd round at defensive end. He played 1 year in Kansas City, which was in 2018, of course, and he was okay for edge rusher. Again, a first-year player getting a 57 grade is not too shabby. It's just about how you really do in your 2nd and 3rd year. But basically, ever since then, he got hurt and he has not played an NFL snap since then. He was on the practice squad with the Las Vegas Raiders, Cowboys, Giants, and also the 49ers. But like I said, he was just a practice squad player, and he has not played an NFL snap since 2018. So that's not good. Now, with the Las Vegas Raiders picks, there was a lot of players to pick from, unfortunately. But again, we got to go with the best bust player, I guess you can say, and Damon Arnett with the first round 19th overall pick in 2020 was definitely their biggest bust. Now, to start off, just in 2020 and 2021, he was just not a good player at all with a 41.7 grade, and then he just got even worse with a little bit of playing time he had in 2021. He did get injured a little bit in 2021, but then again, he had a lot of legal issues or something like that. He had a lot of threats online or something like that, and he was just going through all of it. That's for damn sure. He ended up getting picked up by the Kansas City Chiefs in about 2022 on the practice squad, but has not played an NFL snap since 2021 and is currently a free agent. In the 2017 draft, and another 2nd round pick, the Chargers select Forrest Lamp, an offensive lineman, and he was just like some of the other players. Injury decimated him for his first 2 years in 2017 and 2018. And whenever he did play his first full year in 2019, well, not technically a full year, but, most of the time he was just not a good player. And then 2020, he had basically all the snaps in the world and just not even good at all. He was released from the Chargers in 2020. He's been on the practice squad with the Bills, the Saints, and he is currently a free agent. So that is technically a big bust for a 2nd round pick. Now, with the Los Angeles Rams, you got to give me a break here because they only had like a few 1st round picks since 2016. But I had to pick this player because it made the most sense. Jared Goff with the first overall pick in the draft was their biggest bust. And now, if you do remember, in 2016, the Rams, I think they were currently the St. Louis Rams, I'm not sure, they traded up in the draft to get the first overall pick, and they gave up like 2 first-round picks, 2 third-round picks, just a lot of draft capital for Jared Goff. And he did put up some decent numbers in LA. He had 32 touchdowns and 12 interceptions in 2018. That was technically his best year in Los Angeles. And he did make them. He made them go to the playoffs a couple of times. He was still I wouldn't say a really good quarterback, but he was a above average quarterback. But then he traded him to the Detroit Lions for Matthew Stafford, and they also gave up 2 first-round picks for Matthew Stafford. So the Rams just gave up a lot of draft capital for Jared Goff, and that's why I think that's their biggest draft bust. Now, this one might be a little spicy. The Miami Dolphins' biggest draft bust will be Minkah Fitzpatrick with the first round pick with the 11th overall pick. He was drafted in 2018, and of course, we know that Minkah Fitzpatrick is a great player right now. Even in his first year in Miami, he was really good. He had a 61.9 grade, but he also had a couple interceptions. I think that's pretty good for a first-year safety. But supposedly, he had a lot of drama with the Dolphins. He wanted to be traded after his first year or second year, something like that. And basically, ever since 2020, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's been a complete baller, making all-pros. He's been making Pro Bowls, everything like that. So I would say, for a first-round pick, a guy being really good now, they only play, he only played with the Dolphins for like 1 year. I think that's a big bust. With the 23rd overall pick in the 2016 draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Laquan Treadwell, a wide receiver. Now, in his first year as a rookie, I think he played like only 1 game and then went straight to the IR, so that is not good. But basically, ever since 2017 through 2019 with the Minnesota Vikings, he basically did nothing for a first-round pick, and then he was traded to the Atlanta Falcons, and then sort of kind of had a bounce-back year with the Falcons. I'm sorry, he was not traded to the Falcons. He was picked up on the Falcons, but by a free agent or whatever. His best year was actually in 2021 with the Jacksonville Jaguars with a 72 grade, a touchdown and about 434 yards. But ever since then, he was on the Patriots, Cardinals, Seahawks, Ravens, and yeah, he was just basically on a lot of practice squads since 2021, and that is technically a big bust for a first-round pick. I'm sorry, Patriots fans, but I gotta do it. Your biggest draft bust is definitely Mac Jones from the 2021 draft, being your 15th overall pick, your next supposedly Tom Brady, and yeah, he only had 2 to 3 years in New England. No bueno. Of course, we all know that in his first year with the New England Patriots, he was actually pretty good. He even made the Pro Bowl with 22 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Not too shabby for a first-year quarterback, but then basically ever since then, he just kind of fell off. Things with Bill Belichick wasn't going good, and he just all of that little drama to the side. And I feel really bad for Mac Jones. But this offseason, he was just traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars to back up Trevor Lawrence, and they only traded him for a 6th-round pick. And he's still really young. He still has a chance to really prove himself, but he basically needs to go somewhere else, or unless Trevor Lawrence gets completely hurt for the whole year. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I think the Patriots' biggest draft bust is Mac Jones. With the 25th pick of the 2021 NFL draft, the New Orleans Saints select Peyton Turner, a defensive end. Now, unfortunately, Peyton Turner has been on an IR a couple of times ever since he was drafted, but whenever he does play, he's actually a relatively good player. He has about 3 sacks in 3 years with the Saints, and this is one of the players that, the Saints, basically had a really good draft since 2016 with the first and second rounders, so I technically had to pick their biggest bust, and I wouldn't even say he's a bust yet, but he's, it's considered underperformed since he was drafted. So basically what I'm saying is that Peyton Turner, technically isn't the worst player of all of this list. So he definitely still has a chance in the NFL. With the 20th overall pick in the 2021 draft, the New York Giants select Kadarius Toney, a wide receiver from Florida. Now, unfortunately, Toney had a lot of issues with, his anger issues. He had a lot of drop issues. He also had a lot of health issues. There was just a mixture of everything wrong with him within the first couple of years in the NFL. And his best year was probably in his rookie year with the Giants. He had a 72.8 grade, 420 yards. He didn't have a touchdown, but, that was technically his best year. But like I said, mental issues, he had a lot of that apparently, and people didn't like him too much. Of course, he's on the internet, blabbing everybody off or whatever. He was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's barely played really since then. He's currently on the Chiefs still, but like I said, he barely even plays. Now, I forgot to say, he was also traded to the Chiefs for a 3rd round pick and a 6th round pick. So for being your 1st round pick, only being in New York for literally only a year, that's really bad. Also from the 2021 draft with the 2nd overall pick, the biggest draft bust for the Jets is definitely Zach Wilson so far. Now, we all know the situation with him right now. He's still a backup over Aaron Rodgers, and he's still on the trading block. But in his first couple of years, basically just wasn't really good. He had 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and he kind of just fell off the face of the earth as a 2nd overall pick. Remember that too. And now I will say in his first couple of years, the Jets weren't that good of a team, but last year was technically their best overall team, and he still really didn't perform up to expectations. I don't think he will be traded, but I will think he will be released during sometime this offseason, probably after the draft actually. Now, if you're Eagles fans, I probably don't even have to say it. You already know who I'm going to tell you. Jalen Reagor from the 2020 draft, a 21st overall pick. The Jalen Reagor pick was basically a terrible one because you know who he missed up on? Justin Jefferson. So I'm sorry I had to do that. But in 2020, he missed a lot of time with injuries. Just again, injuries always kill basically everyone. But whenever he did play, he just wasn't that good. So long story short, basically the Eagles were like, screw this, we're going to trade you to the Minnesota Vikings. But currently he is on the New England Patriots, and he is just a complete draft bust as of right now. He just has not lived up to expectations at all. With the 20th pick of the 2022 draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh, and yeah, what a complete disaster. Now, you can see the stats on the screen. He had a 75.5 grade. He had 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in his rookie year. And I don't know. I mean, the grades are actually technically not that bad, but then the touchdown to interception ratio is just completely caca. And that's not good for a starter. He had a couple of injuries last year. I think he missed 3 or 4 games, something like that. But still, come on, bro. That's nothing for a 1st round pick. And of course, we all know that the Steelers completely revamped their whole quarterback room, and he was traded to the Eagles for a 3rd round pick and 2 7th round picks or something like that. So yeah, what a bust for the Steelers. With the 3rd overall pick in the 2021 draft, the San Francisco select Trey Lance. And yeah, just like Jared Goff, the 49ers gave up a lot of draft capital for him. They gave up 2 1st round picks, a 3rd round pick, and a 4th round pick or something like that. I forgot who they traded with. I forgot to do too much research, but yeah, too much draft capital basically for basically a backup player. But whenever he did play, his first year, 2021, he had 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Like I said, he was mainly a backup or backup behind Jimmy G. And then he sort of kind of had a starting job in 2022, but then he was traded to the Cowboys, last year or something like that for a 4th round pick, and he is still currently on the Dallas Cowboys. The Seahawks are a team that actually didn't have a lot of too many bad picks in the 1st and 2nd round, so I had to pick somebody. Marquise Blair in the 2019 draft, and the 2nd round pick is their biggest bust. He actually played pretty decent in 2019. He had a 78.5 grade, but then ever since 2020, he got hurt again. The injury bug has killed basically another player, and ever since then, he just fell off the face of the earth again. Ever since 2021, he's been playing on the Panthers, Eagles, and he has not played in the NFL since 2022. So yeah, injuries killed another player. The Buccaneers' biggest draft bust since 2016 is a 2nd rounder. And the 53rd overall pick is MJ Stewart, a safety. He had some sort of kind of issues, with injuries in his first couple of years with the Buccaneers, but mainly just wasn't really good. But ever since he basically left the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2021 was his best year in the NFL with an 83.8 grade. And now, granted, it wasn't too many snaps, several games, but still really good. But basically, ever since then, he fell off the face of the earth again. Well, at least in my opinion. And he is currently on the Texans. So yeah, the Buccaneers were also another team that didn't have too many draft picks within the 1st and 2nd round. With the 29th overall pick in the 2020 draft, the Tennessee Titans select Isaiah Wilson, an offensive lineman, and I forgot he even existed because he only played 3 snaps in the NFL. Of course, only played 3 snaps in NFL, and he had injury issues, but he also had off-the-field issues, apparently. He got suspended a couple of times, which is no bueno. But literally, he has not played in the NFL since 2020. He was traded to the Miami Dolphins in 2022, but basically ever since then, he's been on the practice squad or just injured or something like that. So yeah, what a 1st round pick played 3 snaps, and basically that's it, and he is currently a free agent. The last but not least, the Washington Commanders, and their biggest draft bust is Darius Juice or Geis. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but unfortunately, this is definitely their best selection of the draft bust. He was a second-round pick in the 2018 draft, and literally ever since he was drafted, he's been on an IR for like the whole year for like literally ever. He only played 1 year in 2019, and whenever he did play, he was actually not that bad. Whenever he did play, he had a couple of touchdowns, but he literally has not played in the NFL since 2019 due to injuries and is currently a free agent. So I feel really bad for the dude since he was a second round pick and had a lot of high potential. But that wraps up this video. If you do like it, hit that like button, comment down below your reactions of my video because of course I do want to see what you guys react, your opinion, whatever like that. But I'm out of here. Deuces.